Hello, friends. I am here to talk to you today about the insane new AI technology that Google have just launched called Gemini. I am streaming, so I'm going to make sure that I am live. Um, let's make sure that you can all see me. Okay, and we're live. So we're talking Gemini. And there are a few pretty incredible things to discuss about this new AI. So it literally just got announced on a Google blog and uh, X posts by Sundar Pichai and Demis Hassabis. Demis Hassabis, obviously being from Google Deepmind, who has been behind a whole host of different advances in AI technology, as I'm sure you're all aware. Things like AlphaGo, things like the folding problem that was solved was all from Google DeepMind. So they're an impressive bunch, and this new AI technology looks like potentially the most impressive thing they've done. Few key important things here to run down. First being that it appears to be fully multimodal. So it understands video, audio, text, and it really has integrated all of these technologies as one. So obviously, the OpenAI product, ChatGPT, is kind of multimodal. You can see that you can talk to it and you can create images using DALI, things like that. So it does work, but they're not fully integrated. It's essentially got two different products that it's allowing to talk to one another. This Google product appears to be fully multimodal. God, I can't say that. And it's incredibly impressive from the demos that they've released. Another thing about ChatGPT is that multimodality appears to have been kind of lobotomized a little bit. One of the um, one of the complaints that people are having about ChatGPT in particular seems to be that some of the functionality is being increasingly kind of removed, whereas Gemini appears to have full multimodality kind of baked in right from the very heart of it. So it's a really, really impressive technology. So I'm going to talk through a few different things here. The first being that they've released three modes. So they've got Ultra, Pro, and Nano. So Nano being designed to work on devices. So this is a really interesting point with large language models and AI technology generally, is that there's a kind of an assumption and understanding that they require vast data centers to work. So most products that are built on ChatGPT, on the GPT-4 API, essentially what you're doing is using that API, which is just an interface through which you can talk to the LLM. You're not doing the actual compute on your device. You're sending messages to the large language model, which is then sending results back. Now, I can do that very quickly, but not that quickly. When you look at the time it takes for ChatGPT to respond to you, or the time it takes for an API call to be responded to if you're building on the API, it's not instant. We're building products on the GPT-4 API, and you do have to wait a few seconds to get a response. So presumably what they're trying to do here with the Nano version is allow that compute to happen right on your device so that there's less lag, and it's going to be a much more agile and efficient compute. So it will respond to you much faster, but presumably will have less deep technology behind it. So it will be able to do less impressive tasks, but for a lot of the more day-to-day tasks that you're asking of an AI, it will be able to do. The Ultra version, I suspect, is going to be an absolute beast. We're going to see over coming days what it can really do as people get a chance to use it. Apparently, this is supposed to have been integrated into Bard, but it doesn't appear to have been so far. Bard being the previous Google large language model that they released off the back of GPT, because they clearly felt that OpenAI were kind of getting a jump on them. So they released that to kind of show that they were still in the game. They weren't really. It wasn't as impressive as what OpenAI were doing. And the big question now will be what OpenAI are able to do in response, because this looks like an incredibly impressive product that may well take them out. There's not a huge amount of detail on the API, but we're going to take a look now at the blog. So I'm going to run you through it. Let me just share my screen because there are a few interesting details here. So where are we? Here we are. So I'm just going to make sure that you guys can all see that on the stream. Yes, you can. Great. So here you can see the intro written by Demis Hassabis, CEO and co-founder of Deepmind, as mentioned. So there is a video here where they kind of take you through,
one of the reasons we got
functionality, and they talk about the accessibility. They talk about the functions. They also then go on. So here you can see the different modes that they're talking about: Ultra, Pro, and Nano. And then they go on to talk about harms. So this, I think, is an interesting point where they may come up against competition from Grok, Elon Musk's AI, because they're talking about how there are different harms that they're worried about, that they want to kind of block, and they want to presumably try and censor in some way. That will obviously restrict its capabilities. Now, lots of people on the kind of AI risk and AI safety side would say this is a really good thing because they're clearly thinking ahead about the safety of this technology. But others might say that it will limit performance and that you might get it telling not lies, but it won't be able to be entirely truthful. And we know that Elon Musk's idea about AI is that it should be all about discovering truth. So here you can see, if I turn the sound back on.
As these systems become more capable, all of those capabilities also raise new questions.
We have to think about what it means to have an image be a part of, for example, the input, because an image might be innocuous on its own, or text might be innocuous on its own, but the combination could be offensive or hurtful.
Safety and responsibility has to be built in from the beginning. And at Google DeepMind, that's what we've done with Gemini.
We develop proactive policies and adapt those to the unique considerations of multimodal capabilities. We then do rigorous testing against those policies to prevent the harms that we've identified with approaches like classifiers and filters.
So here you can already see, and I hope you could hear that, by the way. Do tell me in the chat if you couldn't hear the sound that was going on. But what they're essentially saying is that they've spent a lot of time creating, as they say, classifiers, filters, proactive policies to try to limit the outputs. And this was something that OpenAI kind of had to do on the fly when they launched GPT-3 and then 3.5 and then 4. It was initially very, very capable and very, very honest. And it just gave you everything that you asked for. You could kind of trick it into giving you answers that you wanted. And then they've gradually introduced limits and censorship, basically, in order to stop it from giving you answers that it may not want you to read. And there were a few instances where people going viral asking it for stuff like, how to make a bomb, or, like socially sensitive topics. It was giving answers that they may not like. They were talking about bias. So clearly Google has spent a lot of time working on this stuff. But anyway, aside from that, I think what's really interesting about this, and I'm going to make sure that you can see my screen share again. So here you can see in terms of capabilities, they're talking about multimodal, and there's a video that I also want to show you here, where I won't show the whole thing, but let me just check if you can see my full screen. Yeah, okay. So let's take a look at this.
Let's start.
All right, testing Gemini. Here we go. Tell me what you see.
I see you placing a piece of paper on the table. I see a squiggly line.
What about now?
The contour lines are smooth and flowing, with no sharp angles or jagged edges. It looks like a bird to me.
What if I add this?
The bird is swimming in the water. It has a long neck and beak.
So immediately you can see that it's got a very high degree of understanding, and it's talking back, and it is basically reading a video. I'm going to stop the full screen quickly. So you can see that it's got an understanding of video. It's watching it in real time. It's looking at the development of these images, and it's got a comprehension of what's going on. So this looks to be beyond anything that ChatGPT can do so far. I will quickly share and just show a little bit more of this video before I move on, because I do think it's super impressive and it's worth taking a look at. So if I pop this out again, so if we scroll on a little bit, so you can see the duck's blue, and now it's here. It's understanding that this is a rubber duck. This is a picture of a duck. This is a rubber duck. You know, these things are all super simple for us humans to understand, but for AI, these things are, you know, very complex challenges, because really we implicitly understand that this is in 3 dimensions because we live in a 3-dimensional world, but for an AI, a video file, that's just a flat screen of pixels. So it has to infer all of that information. And so it's clearly super advanced, but then we move on and it's kind of, you know,
Ducks here naturally.
Okay.
It's kind of being witty and interesting about where the duck gets placed on this map. So here you can see, I'll just play this bit.
The duck is in the middle of the ocean. There is no land nearby for the duck to rest or find food. It is unlikely to find ducks here naturally.
Okay.
So again, like it's that when you unpack this, it seems super simple and kind of silly, but there's a very, very deep level of understanding here that I think is important to note, because it's really moving very quickly, and you can only imagine using this kind of inference what other people will be able to build with this technology. So there's a bunch of other stuff. Take a look at I mean, this video was just tweeted by Sundar Pichai, so you can check it out for yourselves, watch the whole thing. It's really interesting, as with the previous video that I just showed. Check it out, have a look, and let me know what you think in the comments about the technology itself. What I also now want to do is just move on to some of these stats that they've shared, comparing it to ChatGPT, because this really is impressive. So again, just going to share my screen. So here you can see they're calling it state-of-the-art performance, and then these different metrics are different ways that the experts in the field use to assess the quality of a large language model. And here you can see that Gemini is beating GPT on pretty much every metric. So there's a reading comprehension one where it's beating it. This common sense reasoning for everyday tasks is not quite there. So that's the only one that it's not beating ChatGPT on. And so these ones are for code. So you know, that's another thing that I haven't even mentioned. Like, it can create code from very, very simple inputs. So again, this is, you know, people say that this is going to threaten developer jobs. I actually don't think it will at all. I think if anything, there's more demand for developers than ever. But if you are a developer, then clearly you need to be working on the APIs for these tools, because they're going to do all of the hard work. But anyway, as you can see, creating Python code, it's far better than GPT. And then in terms of why can't I say that word? Multimodality, again, across everything, it's smashing them. So it's going to be super interesting to see what OpenAI do. I'm sure they'll be watching. It's also going to be super interesting to see what happens to the Microsoft share price and what happens to the Google share price, because this is a big shot that they're taking. And it's really kind of what everybody expected, because Google is Google. They're an AI first company. Deepmind have been in the space for such a long time and creating so many super impressive technologies that I think lots of people were kind of shocked that they hadn't really made a scratch on the space so far, but this is obviously what they've been working on. They've obviously been working on this for a very long time. So the last thing is to look at how you can actually get your hands on it. So again, I'll share the blog. You can take a look at the blog itself, of course. So here you can see they're bringing it to billions of people through Google products. So they say that it's starting today. Bard uses a fine-tuned version of Gemini Pro. As I say, I tried it before coming on here. It hadn't rolled out to me. I'm in the UK. If you've got it and you're using it, let me know in the comments. Tell me if it's any good. I suspect it probably will be, let's be honest. But then building with Gemini, here you can see December 13. That's the date to put in your diary, because that's when developers and enterprise customers can access Pro via the API. And this is the important thing. It's the API. That's the thing that you need to watch, because the large language model itself is great. I mean, that's an amazing tool, but the big jump is when they release the API so that the whole world can start using it. That was the big event for me with OpenAI, was not when they released ChatGPT. It was when they released an API, because you immediately, if you've ever worked in the technology space in any degree, you'll know that opens it up to the world. The API is what means people can build products. And when you outsource your development essentially to the whole world, then you've got billions of people creating ideas to build stuff on this. And you're already seeing now a lot of the products that are being built on the GPT-4 API coming to market, and it's just there's just an explosion. I mean, I could do one of these streams every day. I might start doing one every day, to be honest, because it's incredible how many tools are out there. But when the API comes out, that's when the whole world will start building with these tools. And then finally, Gemini Ultra. So they're currently completing trust and safety checks, including red teaming and RLHF. That's reinforcement learning from human feedback. That's something that is a technique that's becoming incredibly famous now, as a kind of key part of the process. And they're going to start making it available to select customers. So Ultra, I mean, who knows what kind of capabilities that's going to have. We don't yet know what the variation between Nano and Pro and Ultra is going to be in practice. But the fact that they've got a Nano version that's going to be able to be deployed on devices locally is a real step change, because that is not something that you've got with any of the other ones so far. To the best of my knowledge, they're all API based. You have to talk to the LLM in a data center somewhere on a bunch of GPUs. If they're able to deploy a agile version on devices, that could be a really, really big deal as well. So that is, as far as I know, as far as I've seen, that's everything that's kind of been announced. I'll be taking a look. There's a really long report, a technical report that I'll be digging into. I'm sure I probably won't be able to understand most of it, but who knows? I'll give it a go. And there's the blog that you can all go and check out. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you think that this is indeed going to really take a chunk out of OpenAI, or do you think that GPT-5 is going to be, again, the winner in this race? I think that's also an important point to note, is that if there were any doubt previously, then there is none now, that we are in an AI arms race. All of the big guns are investing billions of dollars in this. I heard apparently on the grapevine that Google are now offering I mean, I don't know if it's the grapevine, it might be news, but I've heard it from a colleague that Google are offering a $10 million signing on bonus to select developers who can work on this stuff. It's exploding, and the capabilities are going to get incredible over the next couple of years. What does that mean in practice? Well, it probably means that we're going to have explosive growth in the economy over the next year, which is, good news in the short term for everybody. But in the long term, I mean, who knows? I'm sure, people on the AI risk side are going to be even more worried. This is everything that they've ever feared, is an AI arms race where capabilities improve and improve and improve, and they're getting now to not just the average human level, but beyond. It's going to get to a stage very soon where these models are as good as real field experts at anything. And that is a wild future, because then what do the people do? Maybe the people become super powerful themselves. We become AI enhanced super beings and live in a wild utopia. I certainly hope that's the case, but it does mean that they're going to get out of our control. And if they're out of our control, then there's got to be risk. It seems like Google are at least thinking about that risk quite carefully, but I'm not sure if they're thinking about the risk in the right way. I'm sure they'd know more about this than I do, but it feels to me like they're kind of maybe worried about, harmful content, as in, memes or, things that people might not want to hear, but they're not necessarily concerned about the speed of AI development and the existential risk of exponentially increasing AI capabilities. They clearly aren't worried about that, because look at what they've just released. So it's a mad effing world out there. I'm going to wrap this now. I thought it would be a good time to do an emergency stream, just because it's I'm so blown away by this technology. I'm going to be digging into it. I'm going to be and I'm really looking forward to that API launch to see what the rest of the world can do. Let me know what you think. Drop some notes in the comments. Tell me if I've missed anything, or if there's anything else that you'd like me to kind of do on these streams. But for now, thanks for joining me, gang. It's been a blast. I'll see you next time.